Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the second episode of PVM podcast. I'm Anmita Trisha, your host and fellow explorer of this journey. I would like to start with a huge thank to all of the audiences for the wonderful reaction that we got for our first video.
Congratulations.
It was the first one we have posted, and we got huge good reactions, feedbacks, and notes that this kind of podcasts are very helpful for you. So we are very overwhelmed and thankful. That's why we came up with the second episode with a very special guest. Today we have our regional HR director with us, Miss Alexia. Very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
Really
assalam.
happy to be here.
So I would like to ask Alexia to please introduce yourself and with a little brief about the career, how you started and how you actually became the regional HR director.
Okay.
And then we can start with the other question.
Sure. So I'm originally from Belgium. I've studied in Belgium law, so I'm a lawyer by career. But I've directly switched to HR. So I really had this passion and this energy and this willingness to really make a difference with the people in an organization. I've got lucky that I've started my career with Nestlé. Mm-hmm. And actually I've stayed with Nestlé for 20 years.
Oh, that's a really long time.
Yeah, 10 years in Latin America, like 8 years in Europe, in different countries, and then finally 2 years in the Middle East. Then after those 20 years with Nestlé, I guess I just kind of felt that it was time to change. I was either going to be a person that's been for all of her life in one organization, or I could just kind of try to do something different, still in human resources. So I first moved to Abbott in pharma, and then for like less than 2 years, and then I've moved to Perfetti. So I've been with Perfetti for the last 4 years, and it's been an amazing journey so far.
Oh, wonderful. So this is for the first time you're managing this part of the world?
Yes, with Perfetti, it's the first time I'm managing at least Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and India. The rest of the countries were already part at some point in time in my responsibilities.
How's your experience?
I think it's a super interesting part of the world.
A bit different.
It is very different, but in a good way. I think culturally there's so many things that we can learn being European. And vice versa, right? That also people from this country can learn from people in Europe. But overall, it's just a great experience being from a cultural perspective, but food, also education, what matters for the people in this country, how you can motivate people. Also, it's very different from one country to the other. So it's been a very interesting journey.
Wonderful. So as you're actually managing a very big role, a regional role, and so you have started your career also very early. So what are the challenges you have faced being a woman to be in the corporate, and what are actually the challenges and triumphs you're still facing being in the leadership position right now?
Yeah, I think just to give a bit of a background, like I say, I was born in Belgium, and in Belgium, I think it's one of the countries where whether you're a woman or a man, you're going to have to work, right? Because if you want to have a certain quality of living, you need both salaries. So it's just that simple. So I've been raised with this belief that a woman is going to work and a man is going to work, and there is no one work that is better or stronger or more important than the other. And so when I've moved to Latin America, I would say Latin America culture is a bit similar to the culture or to the way I perceive it in this part of the world. So it is not so usual or so common to have ladies with a role with certain responsibility in an organization. But I've been really lucky enough that pretty early in my career, one of my boss was a lady. She was a very strong lady, a very inspirational lady. And she really kind of mentored me and coached me to make sure I would adapt into this pretty masculine corporate world in Latin America. She gave me advice, and she was really this type of role model where you kind of like, I want to be like her when I'll be
It's actually
older.
a blessing to get a mentor like that at such early stage of your career.
Yeah.
It's
And
very important.
and then I think over the journey, I've been lucky enough to always have someone that would kind of help me to get my way through the organization. And it hasn't been always a woman. Sometimes it's even been a man that would kind of be your role model and your coach and help you go through it. I think the higher you go into the organization, at least it was the case in Nestlé, but I think it's pretty much the case in Perfectly too, the less women you're gonna find, right?
Yes.
And I think that's really a shame.
I think this is true for every part of the world.
I would say so.
Leadership roles, you get very few female.
And there is no real reason, right?
There's no reason for it.
But I think, and it's an example I always give too, I think as ladies, we don't always kind of fight for our knowledge or capability. We doubt ourselves much more, I think, or most of us would doubt ourselves much more than a man would. So, for example, if there is an opening, sometimes I see some of my colleagues, they're very ready to take that role, but they're not going to promote themselves. While a man that would have half of the capabilities, with loads of confidence, would gonna go and say,
I'm going to go for it.
Yeah. But I think that's also something we can learn, right? Through mentorship, through sponsorship, and so on. We can really learn that we have capabilities, we've got knowledge, and the diversity is a strength for every company at every level.
And for this part of the world, I can assure you, the women will always have the run with lots of baggage and extra responsibilities. It's not as easy as the men. So that's why I think this part of the world we are struggling to have more female leaders.
Very different to, I think, the rest of the world, actually. I think there is an expectation from
the
ladies.
run is not the same.
Yeah.
It's a whole different game for men and for women.
Yeah, and you have responsibilities at home which are only
female responsibilities.
Exactly, or which are nominated as only. They could actually be both, right?
Yeah.
But there is a cultural kind of way that means that it's your role to do it. And it's something we don't have in Europe, or not as much as, say, maybe in the past, but this is changing quite quickly.
It's changing, but yet we're not still there.
And I think also what I've noticed, again, in Bangladesh and in countries surrounding it, is that infrastructure is not always
not ready.
There, right? So, for example, I can give you an example in India, for example, where we decided to have more ladies SFEs in the factory. But so we had to build a whole new infrastructure to welcome the first SFEs lady, because washroom, but also changing room, also
sometimes children, crash for their children.
Then safety, making sure they can get to the factory, go back safely at home. So there's lots of things that needs to be put in place before we can make it happen. But we're doing it, and I think that's the right thing to do.
Here also in Bangladesh, we have female SFEs, but not that much female in sales.
Okay.
In sales, we're still struggling with the number because, then again, the hygiene issue. Sometimes we are actually not able to ensure the proper hygiene for the female, especially SR level, because they go direct to the market and we don't have much interference where, with the distributors, with the market, and we cannot actually ensure their safety.
Okay.
That's why the number is very less. But SFE kind of we are managing because it's within the factory we can manage. But SRs we're still
I think
struggling.
for sales, maybe one way to go would be to identify just a few roles in some area of a city or wherever it is that you believe would be safe.
Let's start with modern trade.
Exactly, or modern trade could be a good start too. And then I think word of mouth, right? Once a lady see another lady is actually capable of doing the role, they can get very kind of enthusiastic and excited and say, oh, okay, if this lady can do it,
I can do it too.
I can do it too. And I think that's kind of the right way to grow the number of ladies in the organization. And actually and I'm sure you're aware of it, but if you look at studies, and you can Google it on the internet, like every study is going to tell you that diversity and inclusion are just the right way to kind of grow an organization and to get the highest productivity. So it's not only about ladies, but
every kind of diversity.
Every kind of diversity, and also if you only had ladies in an organization, it wouldn't
not work.
It wouldn't work either, right? So sometimes because we're ladies, they're thinking we're kind of promoting ourselves, but it's one way or the other. It's just the fact that when we have two kind of different way of thinking, of processing. You've got just more creative idea, you've got more innovation, you've got more challenges too. So it's not always easier, but I think for the good of the organization, even in terms of profit, in terms of sales, that's the right way to go for every organization.
Wonderful. So talking about diversity and inclusion, how Perfectly is managing diversity and inclusive environment at the BU level?
So as an organization, not only at BU level, but also at global level in Perfectly, there's been a decision, at least that's the decision so far, that we wouldn't put any KPIs. So we don't want to say we want to reach 15% diversity
or 30%
or 30 or whatever it could be. Unlike other organizations. So in my experience, some of my previous employers, they had this quota that you needed to...
Yes, my previous organizations too. We always had diversity quotas. When I joined here, I was like, there is no KPI for it? Wow.
Yeah, but I think it has this...
Even though we don't have a proper KPI for diversity and inclusion, but we do have the pressure that and the responsibility that we have to ensure diversity within the organization and cross-functional departments. But it's not that we are not working towards it. It's just we don't have a number that we have to achieve.
Exactly. And I think it's also because we've seen the negative impact of having quotas, right?
It's true, very true.
Because sometimes then if a lady is promoted into a higher role, then suddenly she's just a diversity quota.
Yeah.
So I think in Perfectly we have lots of small initiatives, but when you kind of add all of those initiatives, I think we can make a difference. So just to name a few, for example, we have lots of diversity training in the different OC. So those diversity training or unbiased trainings are for the full organization. So not only for the ladies, but for the men and the ladies in the organization. In some of the OC, we have also some type of women's committee. So they meet every 3 or 4 weeks, and they have not only ladies, again, it's also some men, and they discuss on how we could make the organization more woman friendly.
Wow.
So how can we, for example, we were talking about the sales, how can we kind of make more roles available for ladies in the sales organization? And so there's this type of brainstorming which is happening. What also we're trying to implement, and it's not always the case, but at least there is an effort there, it's to make sure that as the pool, in part of the pool of the candidates, we have at least one lady part of the candidates, and part of the pool of interview the same, that at least one lady is being interviewed by, is interviewing the candidates. Because what we've realized too is that usually we have a tendency, and it's very, very human, to kind of hire someone that it's a bit similar to us, right? Because it just makes everything easier. So that's what we thought, that by kind of making sure at least there's a diverse pool of people interviewing, you might have different feeling, different perception, and different way of evaluating the candidates.
True,
so those are little things, but I think they can make a difference.
True. Since you have worked in Latin America and now in South Asian countries as well, do you really feel there are difference in ways in empowering women in different ways in different OCs? Do you feel in this part of the world empowering women is a bit forced? Do you feel that?
Not really.
Not really?
No, I hope not. At least in Perfectly. I don't feel like we really have this. I think if it's a journey, so it's a cultural, it's a mindset change to have more and more ladies in certain role or certain function in the organization. I think having a lady in finance, in marketing, in HR, usually it's quite
normal.
It's quite normal nowadays, at least, even at higher level of the organization.
Right.
I think there's still a journey to go if you take supply chain or if you take sales. I think those functions are still more kind of in the start of the journey. But I think once the lady is at a certain level of the organization, I don't feel she's less empowered or less accountable than if it was to be a man. I think the way they lead is or might be perceived as different, but there's nothing negative or positive with it. It's just part of the personality.
True, very true. So post-pandemic, do you feel the new norms of working that we are adopting every day, it's working for you, or is it actually bringing change and maybe affecting the productivity, the work from home culture, or the less hybrid culture?
Yeah, so I think what always amazes me is that how flexible and adaptable are the human beings,
Yes,
right?
true.
At least in the Middle East before COVID, before the pandemic, we didn't even have Skype. We don't have a WhatsApp call. So we would never have like a FaceTime actually. We didn't never have like a call where you would talk to each other.
Proper meeting.
Yeah, exactly. So we would always meet, we would always travel. But then once the pandemic came, in like a few days, we've adapted, right?
Yes.
So we were able to have all of those online meetings, and we made it work.
Yeah,
We had no choice. And actually, at the time, we were thinking, oh, we're gonna travel less. We're gonna have less face-to-face meeting, and we're gonna use the technology more. But I think again, once the possibility to travel and to have face-to-face meeting came back, there is still for me loads of advantages in having meetings where we can talk to each other.
Every month we have a meeting with you with with Teams and other media that we use. So it actually makes it very easy for us.
Yeah.
Like I can see you, I can see the expression that you're giving. So it actually helps.
Yeah, it does help a lot. And so I think now working from home is very different from one OC to the other, right? So in some of the OCs, people are back into the office 5 days a week or 6 days a week if they're in sales or in the factory. In some of the OC, they've kept an hybrid model. I think it's very depending on the local way of working, right?
But after pandemic, do you get a lot of requests to make more positions hybrid?
Yeah, so there's way more requests because I think people get used to work this way, and also I think we can prove successes, right? So we've been able to grow imperfectly pretty much in every OC despite the pandemic.
Also, it depends on the person as well.
Totally.
Because working from home never worked for me.
Okay.
It was very overwhelming for me because I had a kid. She was only 4, so it was very difficult getting into a meeting, and my kid, maybe she's crying, she's hungry, maybe I have to cook as well. So it was very difficult and overwhelming. And first few days, I had very tough time understanding my family, make them understand that okay, I'm having a real meeting. You cannot talk, and you cannot come into my room. So I had tough time doing that too. So it was a bit different experience for me, but also some of my other colleagues, they had a very good time working from home, and they want to work from home.
Yeah.
So I guess at the BU level, I guess you get more requests to make more.
But so there's no, again, perfectly decided from work from home to not have any global policy. We don't have any BU policy. We just kind of decide depending on the OC and what's happening locally. Right. So I understand, for example, in Bangladesh, most organizations have require their people to go back to the office.
Physical office.
Same in India, for example. If you take the Middle East, actually, most organizations have an hybrid way. So we have one way working from home, 4 days working from the office with flexibility around. Some of the other OC have even more potential of working from home, and some OCs just decided to make it based on the role and responsibility. So some role and responsibility would have to be full-time in the office or in the factory or on the field, and some roles have a different hybrid model. So I really think it's a local decision, and as you were saying, I think there's pros and cons, and then some people like it, some people hate it. So I don't think you can make everyone happy anyway.
True, very true.
But I think we need to do what works the best for the organization.
Of course. So in this part of the world, I'm saying it over and over because the kind of problems we have, it's very different than the other parts of the world.
Okay.
So here, employee satisfaction is entirely correlated with the monetary benefits they get, since the poverty level and other things considering all this. So here, keeping the employee satisfied and keeping the attrition rate at par is very difficult if you are not financially motivating them. Is there any other ways without the monetary benefit? What can HR actually do to make them motivated and keep them within the company and it's kind of create a belongingness? Other than the benefits that we are providing.
Yeah, I think there are many other ways. And actually, there is many studies that will tell you that monetary benefits, it's only going to have a very, very small...
Very, very short period of time.
Exactly. And then people forget and they believe that their salary, which was 120 now, actually 120 belongs to them. So what's next, right?
True.
So I think that's something, obviously, that attracts people. But I think it's very short term. And I think the sense of loyalty and engagement you can have in an organization is what matters the most. And what I've seen so far in Bangladesh is that you've actually been amazing with the number of initiatives that you've started to roll in the organization from all different levels. I mean, I think celebration even of smaller win is extremely important for people. It goes a long way. And it can be just also a verbal recognition. Oh, you've done this presentation, it's amazing, right? You get your number in sales for that week. Well done. I mean, really kind of celebrating those little wins.
Okay, HR came up with another initiative again, and we have to do all this and that. So we get that a lot. That it's just another initiative that HR is taking, but they don't actually see the hard work that we actually put behind.
In place, But I think maybe people do relate to it more than what we think, because, for example, when you do a picnic, when you do a connect all together, when you do, I don't know, a cake for a birthday celebration, I think it goes still a long way with people. I think if you give some rewards because people have been behaving in a certain way that had this great impact on the business, I think it still goes a long way. But what I also really like, and I think that has also an impact on the organization and on the employee, is, for example, the proud to be perfetti moment. I think those are like little things, but people can relate because it's their colleague, it's someone that they've met in the factory or on the field, right? And so they say, oh, okay, yeah, actually it resonates with me. I am the same. I'm also very proud of being part of Perfetti. Another initiative which I think it's really great is the Campus Ambassadors, which is new. And I think we were discussing about the name of Perfetti not always being linked to our
the products we have,
and those campus ambassadors can really make a difference there, right? They can talk about Perfetti, about our product, about what we do for them, and it can go also a long way in terms of engagement and loyalty and also empowerment, actually. So it's a lot of little things, and I think maybe what we're sometimes not very good in HR is we don't always market ourselves in the best way, right? So I think also what's very important is, so we have, for example, we just had the Share Your Voice survey. And so we're going to get the result in a few weeks. And there's a big action plan that's going to be decided and drawn upon based on the result we have. And we know that there's going to be loads of little initiatives. And I think something that we could do is kind of really making sure we offer a whole package to people, kind of telling them it's because we've listened to you, it's because you've told us that something wasn't working for you, that we are kind of initiating this way of working, of this new process, or this new engagement initiative, and really kind of label it this way so that people are just being reminded of what everything we're doing as an organization to try to be an even better place to work.
Right. There's another thing I really wanted to ask you about. It's about the mental health of employees. This is a very less talked about topic, and we actually don't do much for employees' mental health. So at BU level, is there any initiatives that you have taken ever in your career, or you see other OCs are doing for?
Yeah, so I've started with COVID, and I think as an organization during the pandemic, we've been quite managing it in a very good way, in the sense that we were making sure, for example, that we had connect with employees that were working from home, and even more the people that we knew were living alone, for example. We've also made sure that everybody could get the vaccine, and even taking care of the family of the people that of our employees, making sure also they could have a vaccine. We've also been provided some on-call facilities, so that you have, exactly, that you have the ability to just kind of call a doctor if yourself or a member of your family had either physical issue but also a mental issue. Otherwise, I think in terms of health, there is not like a really big BU initiative so far, but it's definitely something that we should be working on a bit more. We have flexible hours, trying to help, for example, with traffic and allowing people to come to work in between 8 or 9 or 9:30, depending of the OC, and also leaving at different time of the day. But maybe that's an area.
In Bangladesh also, I was trying to arrange some sessions on stress management and how we actually understand our mental health is in a right state, this kind of sessions. And I am talking with all the hospitals and other organizations who give this kind of training. So that I was just thinking, these are some sessions that we're just trying to arrange. Other than that, what can be done? There's nothing actually from our level. I actually could not find anything else that could be done for it.
But for example, I know in some OCs they're having yoga session.
Yeah.
So online. So before you go to work, they kind of provide you an online yoga session, and it's very popular in some of the OCs. Something also we've been thinking and we've seen in other part of the world is doing some steps challenges. So you kind of provide your employee just with like a basic bracelet that would count the steps, and and actually you make it a bit of a competition. So can be per function, can be all the man come, can be with your friends, and then like every month you kind of the one that gets the most steps as a team get a little rewards, right? So I think there's possibility to really do little things that can make a difference for the employees, and sometimes the competition aspect of it also helps, right? And because you're part of a team, you don't want to let the team down, so you're going to make sure that you're also going to do the number of steps, so that you're not the one who is kind of making it,
kind of causing the loss. Okay, so the last question, it's kind of a personally, I really wanted to ask you this question. When you have like expatriate women, you see at BU level, how the maybe Europe, Latin America, this part of the world actually accepts the expatriate women from this part of the world, like from India or Bangladesh. Is there any different in acceptance, or is the same?
I haven't perceived any difference. I think being a woman expatriate has its challenges, for
very
sure.
Challenging.
And even more if you have children. I think there's always going to be some...
And mobility is always a challenge for women.
Yeah, I think mobility is even more challenge for women. And I think you just need to understand that you're going to have to compromise somewhere, right? So meaning that if you're the one who's got the main job and that your family is going to follow you, you need to make sure you're taking the right decision. And you also need to accept the fact that you might not be there for all of the show of your kids, for example. You might miss important moments in the family life because you've got a job and you might need to travel when there is a birthday, for example, and you need to explain why you're going to miss the birthday. And you're not going to be the one who's going to be able to pick up your kids at the end of the school day, and you're going to have this discussion with your children that why all the other moms are picking up their kids.
Take the decision.
And you're not the one, right? So I think it's the most important for me is like you really need to love what you're doing. You need to be passionate about what you're doing, because if you don't have it, it's not going to work. And you need to make sure that you really feel good with your decision, because it's only like this that your family is going to tag along, right? If they feel that you're uncertain, that you're not happy, that you don't feel it's the right decision, it's going to impact them definitely. So I would say, it's...
Was it difficult for you too when you started?
It was difficult. It was very difficult.
Knowing you have kids?
So no, I think every move has been quite a decision and a challenge. And the more your kids grow, the harder it is, because you make them lose their friend, their environment, their culture, and they have to start all over again, right? Yes. It's not only you, it's your children. So you need to have very transparent discussions.
Them, it's very difficult to be the new kid at the school every time, over and over.
But then my kids never known anything else. So I think that made it quite easy. It's not like they've been in one country for 10 years and then suddenly we've decided to move abroad. They've been abroad all of their life. And I think they've been quite good actually at adapting. But yes, I think it's a lot of communication. It's a lot of explanation. It's kind of being transparent on kind of telling them, this is what it means to me. This is how it's going to impact you, and this is how I can help you, but this is how you're going to have to help yourself too, right? So I think it's it's communication, it's compromise, and it's not always easy. It's not always easy, but I don't regret any of the move we've made. And actually, my kids now, so the two oldest, they've started to work, and they've already moved twice in their professional life in different countries, right? So I guess it did not impact them too negatively.
Wonderful. So thank you, Alexia, for the wonderful conversation that we had. Before we finish the podcast, we have an interesting game. That these are some of the brands we have currently in our OC, and you have to eat each of the each of the candies, and guess the brand and the flavor. Okay.
Each of them are like a bit less.
You can have 4 or 5. Okay. Okay, so here is the pool.
This is delicious.
All our chocolates are delicious.
Yeah, but this one I really like. So this is Alpenliebe Chewy Caramel.
Correct!
And they're very addictive. So when I start having one, usually I have like 2, 3, 4.
It's very good. Okay, so you have one.
So this is Air Mentos. It's super strong.
This is their action one.
It's actually very nice. It's
very refreshing.
Very refreshing, exactly.
You got 2. Wow, you're good. Okay, the next one.
This is just jelly.
Which flavor?
Strawberry.
Oh wow!
Is it strawberry?
You have a 3. Wow. You actually buy our products, right?
Yeah, I do. No, I actually really like our products. Like I have favorite one, and I have some that I don't eat so much. But yes,
But you are actually guessing this is all Bangladeshi production.
Yeah, but they're very similar. So the Alpenliebe Chewy, we have it in Nigeria, a bit different, but very similar. The Just Jelly, we have it in India. And then we have a different version of the Air Mentos in different part of the world. So they're very good here too.
So I guess we can wrap up the game, and actually you won because you got all the numbers right.
Thank you.
One last thing I would ask to share, to tell the potential students or the potential employees who are out there watching our podcast. Do you have any advice or suggestion for them? So, and listening to that, we will end the session.
No, I think the advice I have, and I guess it would have been the same advice I've given my daughter, is just you're spending so much time at work, much more time than what you're spending at home. So just make sure you're really passionate about what you're doing. Just don't do something because you've been told that was the right thing for you to do. Just do something because you really believe you can make a difference in that role, and that you really have fun. I think waking up and just feeling like you want to go to the office and you want to just do something that's going to have an impact in the organization and in the business, it's going to make your life just a great life. And it's really important. And if you think at one point in time in your career you want to do something else, just go for it. Just take the risk, right? I think there is nothing better than just really doing something you're passionate about. And I think that's how you're also going to be successful.
Yes, you have to love your job.
You have to love your job, and you have to just give it all.
Yes, very true.
And I think we're very lucky in Perfetti because we have a culture which is a very friendly family culture.
Right.
So I think for all of us, we have friends. It's not only colleagues, it's really people we can share our weekend with or what we've done, but we can also share the challenges we had during the day. And it's a great community.
True.
And it's even, because we are multinational, it's not only localized in Bangladesh, but we make friends even beyond.
Outside the country as well.
The country. And I think in terms of learning, in terms of understanding, in terms of growing, it's just an advantage that we have.
True, very true.
Really
Personally, I had a very good time talking to you.
Me too.
It was wonderful. And thank you everyone if you have watched till here. We will definitely come up with a new podcast with a new guest. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.